Hello and welcome to AZ in the Circle, Arizona Softball Podcast, our first episode. So we're here in sunny Gilbert in 1010 Studios. We got a great show planned for you today with the head coach of Embry-Riddle University up in Prescott, Coach Nicole Hennessey. Thanks for being out here.
You're welcome.
She's the head coach of the defending CalPAC champs. We're going to talk about her journey to Prescott and also what gets her fired up, what kind of culture she's growing there, winning culture, and where the team is now. I know they just finished fall ball and the season's approaching, so we definitely want to learn where you are, and then definitely learn about your studs. I know you had the pitcher of the year, the rookie of the year, and then maybe we talk some recruiting.
Sure.
So you arrived out in Prescott in the fall of 2022.
I did.
Yep. And from what I understand, that spring season of 2022, the coaching staff, they resigned, and then the athletic director and an assistant soccer coach took over, and somehow they were able to win the CalPAC championship.
Yes.
And then you came in, and did you know the team at all, or how was that coming on the campus in the fall?
Yeah, the only interaction that I had was with 3 of the athletes, 2 on Zoom and 1 was in person during my interviewing process, and then got the job, got the okay, got in a Penske, drove from South Carolina over, towing my car with my mom, and then first day of work was the first day of class. So they all just come by and they're like, "Hey, I'm so-and-so." I'm like, "Sounds great, here's a donut,"
Yeah.
And it was interesting because nothing was scheduled, nothing was ordered. I mean, it was completely behind the 8 ball and a lot of catching up, but it was a wild time running fall by myself.
Yeah, because if I think about it, a lot of times you see where there's an assistant coach and a head coach, and the head coach moves on, and the assistant becomes, and they just kind of have some continuity there.
Right.
But it was like an arranged marriage, something like that, right?
Yeah.
You show up, you don't even know who the groom is, and,
Right.
and next thing you know, you got how many did you have on the team at that time?
22.
Okay,
Yeah.
22, and then you figured, okay, they got to be pretty good because they got it done on the field.
Yes.
Right? And so what was the plan going into that fall and then that spring? What kind of culture did you say, hey, you know what, I want to instill this type of culture? How was that?
It's a unique experience taking over a program regardless of their history and their past, and knowing a little bit of what they went through and kind of the inconsistency in the coaching staffs over the years, being the 4th head coach in 9 years. It's a lot of turnover. There was some interims in there with the AD and whatnot, but I just approached it knowing, they've been through some hard stuff, but they were still resilient and pushed through that and won in spite of all of the negativity.
Yeah.
And so coming in, it wasn't guns blazing, my way or the highway. It was, okay, well, what worked, what didn't, and here's my vision. How can we meet in the middle and and navigate it that way? It was very soft. I was very soft on them just because, a lot of them needed that. They needed to see a coach who isn't just crazy, crazy yelling, and that's not my style regardless of the situation. So it was, I think, a healing process for all of us, and we're still going through it, which is good. It takes time.
Yep, takes time.
Yeah.
What about your arrival to Prescott? Where were you before, just before? And how besides meeting your team for the first time on the first day of school, how are you in terms of, wow, I'm moving to Prescott, Arizona, Embry-Riddle University. I was just there a few weeks ago. It's a beautiful campus.
It is.
It's like, I've been to another beautiful campus, the Air Force Academy, and it reminded me a lot of that with all the science and tech that's going on there.
Yeah.
But tell me what got you there before this.
Yeah, so I spent a year at Furman University out in South Carolina in Greenville, as they say.
Greenville.
They're the Ivy League of the South. They pride themselves as. Gorgeous campus. They're the Paladins. They have a lake on campus, which was mind-blowing to me at the time. And
lake on campus?
Yes. Yeah, the bookstore is up against the lake, and you can walk around. They had, cute benches and stuff.
All right.
But definitely a different experience, being a Cali kid and making my way out to the East Coast. But I had a lot of great learning opportunities, and we played a lot of highly competitive softball. We took 1 game from Mississippi State. That's kind of what we hung our hat on that year.
Yeah.
We competed with Florida State. We only lost 2-0. Okay. However, we were on ESPN for some highlight reels of not so great base running, which is fine. It happens. Yeah. And, we played UCF and a handful of other highly competitive teams, and we ended up finishing 4th in postseason, which was higher than our preseason,
Okay.
predictions. So that was a great learning experience, and I knew with what I have had already under my belt as a coach that D1 experience was what I needed to open the door to where I'm meant to be, and that was Riddle. So that opportunity came, and I did the interview, and I waited weeks to hear back because everything has to go through Daytona, and because we are, their sister campus, and I finally get the call of, all right, we're booking your flight, you're coming. I'm like, sounds good, here I go. And I have
For the interview or for the job?
For the in-person interview.
In person,
so there
okay.
was, multiple steps to this process, and as any university should have, I took the Furman job sight unseen.
Okay.
So that was a big gamble,
Yeah.
absolutely worth it. But I got on campus and was just in shock. I would have gone there. However, I was pretty much out of eligibility by the time they had a team.
Yeah.
Just aging myself a little bit there,
Okay.
but
They started in 2018 or something like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
14. That was very generous.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. But originally going into college, I was bio, which meant either surgeon or forensic scientist. So I was very intrigued by Embry-Riddle and the things that they offered and how unique the degrees are. It's not just flying airplanes. We catch bad guys, we build things, and it's all sort of encompassing. So I get there, I go through what literally was over a 12-hour day of interviews and getting passed around to the different deans and different campus life and interviewing with them. And my final part was having dinner with the AD, and at the time, still on East Coast time, also had a concussion, and so I was like falling asleep in my nachos, but still got the job.
From the base running against Florida State? Is that where you got
No, there was a
Okay.
hole in the net,
Oh,
got cranked right between the eyes.
Sorry.
Luckily, I didn't have any black eyes in my
Okay.
interview, so it was good.
Okay.
But I get back home in South Carolina, and I just felt in my heart, I'm like, that's where I'm supposed to be, and hopefully that door opens. And I had interviewed with 15, 16 other colleges that whole summer, was just trying to find a home. And
Was it stressful?
that's an understatement. Yeah,
Yeah, because it kind of
it's-
sounds like jumping around up front, like recruiting. I mean,
Mhm.
put yourself in your
you are, yeah.
your
You're getting
prospective
recruited.
college
Mhm.
prospective student athlete, and you're trying to go somewhere, and they ask you to go for a visit, and you're like,
Yep.
wow, I really want to go here. Then you go back home, you're like, I really hope they take me.
Yep.
But you have 13 or 14 other schools that you're
Mhm.
also interested in, so it's almost the same thing that players go through.
Yeah, I was a finalist for 3 jobs as a head coach,
Okay.
and had some other stuff in the works that I ended up pulling out of once I got the call for Embry-Riddle, and it was kind of the one I was holding my breath for. 'Cause
Good.
Yeah, my grandpa was headhunted by JPL and NASA and such, but he wanted to lay floors as a living, just blue collar kind of guy.
Yeah.
So it's in the genes.
It's in the genes. Yeah, hard work.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. And then talk to me about a winning culture.
Mhm.
Everybody talks about, oh, we want to establish this culture, but the only kind of culture that lasts is if you end up winning. So
Mhm.
you have longevity there in a program. Are there certain things that you've come up with your experiences that I know this wins? This kind of attitude, this kind of energy, this kind of enthusiasm. Tell us about your winning culture that you're developing there.
Your culture comes from what you're willing to tolerate. So you have to set your standards, you have to set your expectations, and that can come down to, did you forget your visor today? All right, it's time to meet at home plate. Got a bow and arrow, got to work it out. It's the little details that if we take care of those things, that's going to show up in the game in the big moments. We practice our bunting every day. We practice all of these little parts of the game with intent in order for it to show up in the game when the pressure's on and everything feels bigger than life.
So, bow and arrow, is that sometimes
Ooh,
is that a softball
it's not
term?
fun.
It's not
Yeah.
fun. Okay, it's not fun. So you're
They
holding
all
them
flinch.
accountable.
Yes, the accountability piece is big, and we're still navigating that now. What are the standards? We did win last year, and I somehow, did that with a concussion. Another one. I'm 5 in, only ever having them as a coach, which is wild, but coming together and staying resilient in those moments kind of helped keep us together in the hard times. We did drop that first game of the championship day pretty well, 13 to something, 16 I don't know. I've kind of blacked it out, but we were
Yeah.
able to bounce back and walk it off and do those great things. So had we not pushed ourselves hard and had those standards of excellence and, just trying to leave things better than you found it, it's kind of the slogans that we spit around and talk about it at practice and
Gotcha.
the day in and day out.
So CalPAC championship, it's an NAIA,
Mhm.
just for the fans out there. And how's it work? You have certain teams in the conference.
Mhm.
CalPAC would probably tell me the Pacific Coast, right? And then you win that. You have to win the conference tournament
Mhm.
to get to the World Series
Opening
playoffs.
round. Yeah,
Opening
so
round. How's that work?
in NAIA, typically you have a conference tournament, and if you have enough teams in it within your conference, that's an automatic bid to opening round. And so then there's 10 sites around the nation, 4 teams go to each, and you duke it out. And then the winners of those go to the final site, and so that's our World Series week. And
You guys made it to the World Series week.
we did not. We made it to opening round.
Opening
Yes,
round.
we were.
And you lost the first one, but you came back strong
No, so that was CalPAC tournament.
Okay.
So that was just to get there.
just to get there.
Just to get there. Yeah, we won our first 2 games in the tournament. This is also during finals week, which
Okay.
is great. So between being the field crew, coaching the games, I'm proctoring tests in the conference room, physics and all
Oh,
these.
because you're traveling. And,
We're traveling.
and you got to, the
Yeah.
kids have to take the test, the
Right,
players.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we got games during their finals time. Thankfully, we got to host, so we're sleeping in our own beds, which is a huge, huge advantage, I think. And being at home and getting to win that on your own field. But yeah, it was not easy. And Westcliff gave us a little bit of a run for our money there at the end, and we always had good games with them. We split with them in regular season, so yeah, we won that. And
There was
to
another
opening.
Arizona team, Park
Mhm.
University.
Yes.
I think they also are they in CalPAC conference?
Yes.
And did you guys meet up in the playoffs there?
We ended up not. How the
Okay.
seeding worked, we faced, I believe, Simpson first, and it's kind of set up if you win one a day, you win the whole thing. So that's what we were hoping for. That's ideal. So we win against Simpson. We had an excellent game against Westcliff on day 2. It was an hour and 1 minute. It was a
Good.
walk off, no mercy. They had to beat us at least once just to see another game, and then we ended up walking off that second game to win the whole thing.
Okay.
With
Awesome.
Kate on the mound again.
With Kate on the mound again.
Yeah.
Of course. Why
Yeah,
not?
Why
She
not?
got the
Yep.
experience.
That
She's
was the
in the
rotation.
moment.
That's what we had. That was what
Yep.
we're doing. So.
Which brings me to another question I wanted
Mhm.
to ask. When you said Kate came in, that big moment, she was in the circle and she came through the second time. Is that something that you find is something that she grew into, or because you recruit her because she was already there?
Mhm.
But like if say when you're out there on the recruiting road and you see 2 pitchers,
Mhm.
and they're basically the same kind of talent, so how do you choose? What are some of the intangibles that you look
Mhm.
for when you're bringing in a student athlete to Embry-Riddle that separates them from I only have one scholarship left? What do I
Mhm.
do? Tell me a little bit about that, because talent's talent. We all know what
Talent's
talent looks like.
Right. How are you responding when you're not in? How are you responding when maybe you're not successful? You can take your moment, you can process, you can say whatever you want in your glove, but I look for those kids that are like, all right, how else can I contribute? What can I do to be here for my team and to invest in this moment and not get caught up in, the failure of the sport? Like, we're not defined by our sport, and I tell my athletes that all the time, like, you're more than the stat column. You're a human being to me. Like, that's my priority, is you as a human being, then as a student, then as an athlete.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm looking for
pretty awesome.
those who, they're in it to win it, and they're hyped up if someone gets a walk. I mean, they're celebrating the little things, and I think that's helpful when you're in the hard moments, because that's what you have to latch onto.
Speaking of latching on the moments,
Yeah.
I always liked it because I would always think that playing is always better than coaching,
Yeah.
right? But the next best thing to playing is coaching, right?
Sure.
So what are some things that get you fired up? Like,
Mhm.
I'm sure like planning a trip and all the transportation you gotta organize is not it.
Fun, no.
But what are some of the moments, like maybe in practice? Are there some competitive situations or games or bracket play or playoff? What of the softball world as a head coach, because you wear many hats,
Yes.
what's the thing that really gets you fired up and said, yeah, I love this. This is why I do this.
It varies, like you mentioned, there's different aspects of what we do. Finding a good place to eat fires me up when the kids are like, man, coach, that was good. I'm like, yes. success. It's really hard to plan what you're gonna
Like
be
what?
hungry for.
Chipotle?
No,
Okay.
yeah, no. We find places,
Okay,
and they're
good.
like, this was good. This hits. I'm like, all right, good. Got to make sure you're fed, right, so you can perform.
Is hit the word? That's the word, hit.
I don't know. I don't know
young
their
word.
lingo.
Hits.
They change
Hits.
it every day. Bussin', hits, slaps. I don't know. I just am like, okay, you're happy.
Yeah.
You're not.
They said, oh, look at his drip. I go, what is he talking about, drip?
No,
It's
yeah,
like,
that's your aesthetic.
yeah, it's like our producer here today,
Yeah.
Kendall's got some
great drip. All right. All right.
So, okay, so that gets you fired
Yep,
up.
Great
What else?
food fires me up. Everyone knows to get to an athlete's heart it's through the stomach.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Even
true,
as a
yeah.
coach,
Yeah.
that's still a thing. I would say within practice, seeing that moment where it clicks, where you're, trying to watch and you're trying to break things down and listening to their thought process. We're very like hands-on at Embry-Riddle, so I try to teach them in their style of learning. And so it's, hey, maybe try this, or what are you feeling with that? What do we do to correct that? And kind of let them work through that process. And then we apply it, it either works or we pivot a little bit and we kind of just correct the course, kind of like in an airplane. It's very small corrections as you go.
And over the course of lots of miles,
yes,
it's
then
a big difference.
you could end up in New York or Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
true.
how we are. So
Do you find that sometimes you are saying the same thing, but you say it differently, and all of a sudden it clicks, and you're like, I'm the knucklehead coach that couldn't communicate it well? Or if that ever happened, where you're saying the same stuff but different ways, and finally something?
that's kind of just why I asked them. What is your thought process? What are you feeling in that kind of thing? Or plant the seeds, and then eventually it grows, and then you hear them using your language, or they're saying the things you've been saying, where they're like, yeah, I kind of feel that now. And I'm like, okay, I'm
good.
glad we got here.
Yeah.
It has to be them feeling it and seeing it and thinking it, as well as them receiving the instruction. So it's unique. They're highly, highly intelligent student athletes. I joke that some of them are rocket scientists. We don't have any on the team, but we do have mechanical engineers and software engineers and meteorologists.
One of your players, she did an app. What was her name? She did an app.
Kate Delaney. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the pitcher.
Kate the Great.
Kate the Great. Now I know why you call her the Great. She developed an app on campus that's basically like she calls it Ernie. Tell me a little bit about that.
So every senior has a different capstone based off of their degree and what they're studying, and so hers was for software engineering. She created kind of like an Alexa. So she asks it a question like, hey Ernie, where's the gym? And it'll pop up a map of the campus and kind of show you where to go. And part of our campus is horribly numbered, and we call it the maze. And so that was a big one of trying to just find your classroom, because the numbers are not consecutive by any means. And we actually got to help in bullpens come up with ideas of questions that would be asked. And she was like, Coach, it's your first year here. What do you want to know? And I'm like, well, what do I not know? That's the question I want to know. Like, where is this? Where is that? And so she explained to us, the whole algorithm and how it has to talk to itself. I mean, the things we talk about in bullpens are pretty insane, but that was her capstone. Yeah.
Is she, since she's your pitcher, do you, without giving any proprietary information now, do you guys sit down and look at video and say, okay, look at this batter, look at this swing, and then you come up with a plan? And because she seems like she's pretty smart, does she come up with, I think we should do this or do that? Is there feedback between you guys before a game, certain order?
Not so much. I'll put together a scouting report, so I watch film. Sometimes we do go back and watch if we know we're going to see them again. So say we had like a doubleheader with ACU or someone who was out of conference, and we want to make adjustments. We will watch a little bit of film. Just
ACU is Arizona Christian University?
Yes, Arizona Christian.
They're out of conference, but they're in NAIA.
Correct.
And they're right down the street. Down the hill.
Yes, we're actually going into conference with them next year, but that's a whole nother conversation. So sometimes we do post-game watch film, but essentially I come up with a scouting report of all the film that I can get, all the data I can get, with stats, with my observations, and a plan of attack. And then I'll call pitches, and if we're up by a lot, then I let pitchers and catchers call for each other.
Oh, that's great.
And so they have that opportunity, and we do talk about it a lot in bullpen of, all right, we're throwing to a batter, and she's a righty, and she's a spray hitter. We compare her to one on our team. We're like, so-and-so's in the box. How are we going to attack? And so I'll let them call, and then I'll ask, why'd you pick that pitch over this pitch? Or some days, like, what if only 2 pitches work? Can you get that girl out with those things? So It's a process.
Yeah, like in golf, if you give me the driver and the putter, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Okay, and then okay, let's talk about your stud. We've been talking
Okay.
about him. I want to hear about this freshman, Autumn.
Autumn
Right?
Salusi.
Autumn Salusi, 2023 CalPAC Freshman of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
She holds a single season record, CalPAC record for 57 RBIs
Only. Mm-hmm.
only. Yeah, and she led CalPAC in home runs 10.
Uh-huh.
Now I've heard D1 coaches talking about, hey, if we want to make it to the tournament, we have to have 3 hitters that hit 10 home runs, and that's at that level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine 10 home runs at any level is what you need
Mm-hmm.
to go far. And you
Yeah.
guys had other girls that hit some good bombs too.
Yes.
So let's talk to me about Autumn.
Autumn is someone I inherited. Just she was a freshman my first year there. She's from Hawaii. Got picked up at a tournament, I think, out in Vegas. Just wanted to be a pilot. And so we got her here, and she just kind of is quiet, but like sneaky funny, very even keel on the field, and just gets the job done.
That's good. A silent assassin.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like a little like the ninja.
Yeah.
At one point, I did have a bet with her that I would buy the whole team ice cream if she hit an opposite field home run.
In a certain game or anytime.
All season it was on, because she is, heavy pole hitter. She's a power hitter, right?
Yeah.
And I said, people are gonna scout you. They're gonna understand, the holes in your swing.
They're gonna throw you away.
They're gonna, and change ups, which she definitely loves. And I think she ended up having a few triples on the year.
Okay.
Hitting them off a right field fence. And she's like, well, does that count? I'm like, are you home?
No.
Did it go over?
Yes.
And she's like, oh no, but it's a triple. I'm like,
Yeah.
no ice cream.
No.
Bet's still on though. We'll see how she does this
Yeah.
year.
Oh, I bet she gets it. That's good.
And if you want to three-peat, we got to do some things we've never done before. So we had an earn it week where all we did was condition. And it was a different workout every day, different style. And there was team competitions within those workouts. So it was kind of fun, but also hard work.
Yep.
And on day 5, I let my softness come out a little bit, because if I had gone through with the workout, I might not have had a team.
Yep.
And so change of plans, found a Walmart and filled up some water balloons as a surprise. And so we did relay races and stuff, and
That's
then
good.
threw them at each other. So, yeah.
That's good.
It was
Got
good.
to release some stress.
Yes.
And then you have a meteorologist on your
I
team.
do.
She says, throw the cyclone.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes.
She's a 2023 CalPAC Pitcher of the Year.
Also that, yes.
Yeah.
So Claire is another one I inherited, little lefty out of California. Super sweet kid, very quiet at first last year, also sneaky funny. I get to see a little bit more of her authentic self in bullpens, because we get to joke around, and she's one that we really like. She's very, very brainy, and is like, has to work through things, feel things, and she kind of immersed as our number 2 last year and stepped up as a freshman, and our ace was a freshman the year prior, so she then became the ace and took over for McKaylee Davidson, who was also extremely talented. So Claire stepped into that number 2 role, and at first it took a little bit of minute for her to settle in, but once she was on in CalPAC, it was lights out.
So you got a righty and a lefty.
Yeah, I've got a righty, lefty, righty, righty.
Okay.
That's my
set.
depth.
Yeah. Speaking of lefties, one of your commits was down
Mm-hmm.
in Houston, and they actually played one of the Athletic Mercado teams
Mhm.
from out here, and it's your lefty that's
It
coming
is.
here,
Yep.
and
I found another one.
she's really good, and gave us a run for our money. And we ended up, the Athletic Mercado team ended up tying that game, but
Yep.
at the very end.
Mhm.
But it took a while to break through. She got us on the first round. You know. When I say she, us is my daughter plays on
Right,
Mo
right.
Mercado's Athletic Mercado team. But it was interesting because all the way down in Houston, we run
Mhm.
into one of your recruits, and she's from Northwest Vandals. She's way up in
Oregon. Yeah.
And they played against each other in Houston.
And she had just committed the weekend prior to going to Texas. So
Okay.
I had just had her on campus. She went through the whole process, got the offer, and was like, how much time do I have? I said, as much as you need. Like, I'm not one to rush. That's a big decision. And I got a text the next day. I was like, Coach, you have time to talk? And I did joke. I was like, that always stresses me out. Like, please don't send that to me. Because it's like, is this bad? Is this
Yeah.
good? And they all laughed at that. And so she's like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm taking the offer. I was
Okay.
like, right on. All right.
What she want to do at Embry-Riddle?
Oh shoot, what did she want to do?
Did she want to fly or?
Man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I forgot.
No, when I was there at Embry-Riddle, I saw signs as like, hey, if you want to learn about the FBI and CIA and get your top secret clearance, I mean, it's high tech stuff going on there at Embry-Riddle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just another Tuesday for us.
Just another Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. That's good. Congratulations on getting a really
Thank
good
you.
one.
Yeah.
So that you're going to compete in what conference? When you said you're going to merge with Park into another, is it the same conference, or you can't talk about that right now? Or?
It's been announced.
Okay.
So there are some GSAC schools that are going D2.
Okay.
So the GSAC's losing their numbers, and we're deciding us and 3 other CalPAC schools are leaving the CalPAC to kind of join forces within that conference. And allegedly, like, the acronym's going to be the same, but it's going to be called something different, which is
we'll figure it out when we get there.
Right. So
Yep.
we'll be with Ottawa, and we'll be with Arizona Christian, and then a couple of other.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Good
So
for
it's
people
all
in
people we're
Arizona to
playing.
compete,
It's all people we're
to
playing
come out and
already.
watch you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because definitely we want to shine a light on hardworking and talented softball players and coaches here in the state of Arizona. That's why we really started this podcast.
Right.
So thank you. We talked about some players, and the last bit I want to talk about is, recruiting. But before that, tell me about your vision. I really want to know about, hey, you got your winning culture that you want to put in. We've talked about where your team has been and where they are now. They're a little sore. You know, they're working harder because they know they got bigger challenges ahead of them.
Yep.
So you're preparing them for something bigger. What is that vision? What's that look like for you and your team?
I think my vision overall is to always leave it better than you found it. And so that requires you to do some things maybe outside of your comfort zone. That requires you to grow as a human being. I'm really big on, mental health and pouring into the human first and foremost before we attack the academics, before we attack the softball piece. Because I want them to leave fierce competitors in whatever that looks like for them, whether it is in the FBI, the CIA, or as a meteorologist, or even if they want to be a stay-at-home mom, like, good for you. You got your degree and you want to be like a crafty queen. Great. I got a sweatshop in my house. Like, let's learn how to screen print and do all the things, because I do that for our team. That's one of the things that I take the time and do our shirts, and it just means more, and I like doing that.
Yeah. Just one more hat to put on.
You're not wrong. Yeah, I'm a screen printer now.
Yep.
But I really I want to create a legacy where Riddle is known for young women that go into the workforce with a good heart posture, and just want to, make a difference, and not just what they, produce work-wise as human beings. Because you don't go to a place like Embry-Riddle to go mess around afterwards. You're about your business.
Yeah.
But what else can you do to go above and beyond and leave an impact that lasts?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's all right. That sounds like a good vision to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you're treating your student athletes as, hey, you're more than just what your results are on the field, and I'm a big proponent of that too. That sport's hard enough. So everybody that's playing college ball at whatever level, they're working hard to be successful at that.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily define who they are per se.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
kudos to you.
Thanks.
And then last bit is recruiting. Hopefully we a lot of people will be watching.
Yeah.
And we shine a light on Arizona softball players and coaches, and to the girls out there that are looking to maybe come to Embry-Riddle. What are some characteristics that you look for in players that kind of help you support that vision that you talked about,
Right.
and that winning culture? There's got to be something besides it. Obviously, they got to be talented. I get that, but what is that? What's that look like especially for all the local high school student athletes out here?
I think, handling it in the classroom is first and foremost. It's the first thing I look at. Just for us, it's an expensive school. I won't lie to you. The sticker shock's, it's real. But we have great academic packages. So if you have above a certain GPA, you get a lot of money. You get a scholarship just for being a female, because it is, a male-dominated industry. So there's a Women of Excellence Award and things like that. And then we can stack the athletic scholarship piece on top of that. So you're getting it done in the classroom. The skill piece is important. I got to make sure you can compete and kind of fill the shoes of what we have, or maybe even push the size of those shoes even more. But just trying to find athletes who they are invested, not only in the university and the team, but like they're willing to go above and beyond to grow through the hard stuff.
And through the course of sophomore, junior, senior year in high school, it seems like from our discussions before the show that you really take the time to follow these athletes, not just one weekend, but a few weekends, a few different tournaments, maybe a fall and a summer.
Yep.
Tell me about that. What's the process for you for that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little unique coming in and inheriting some recruits who I'd never seen before, and those kind of didn't work out. So the only 23 I brought in was a JUCO transfer who happened to be a back-to-back national champion at her JUCO, which not a bad pickup. Not mad at that one at all. Thank you. Making a splash first round. So that was a little unique of an experience, bringing her in, and she's acclimating well. You know, the team loves her, and she's emulating what I want in a culture and in an athlete.
That's great.
And she's a goof, which is helpful.
Yeah.
So now, you know, moving on to that 24 class, I only had 2 athletes committed going into this summer, which had me a little stressed because I have 11 graduating out of my 22. Big senior class. And I had athletes, you know, on campus in the spring as juniors, so they got to come and practice with us and watch us compete, which I think was awesome for them, and experience our awesome weather in Prescott, which is not always nice.
No, but it's actually ranked, Prescott, I've seen it, as one of the best places to retire because the average weather is like 80s and sunny.
Which means it's also very safe.
Yep.
It can kind of be a hard sell for the athletes, but there's trouble to be found if you want to find it.
Yeah,
I typically don't look for those kinds of kids, right?
Okay,
We're here to get academics in softball.
Yep.
But this summer was a little bit wild for me. I spent the road 1 month. I left the state of Arizona on the 8th, and I didn't get back till the 30th. And I was
so
in
8th of June. 8th of June, and you got back the 30th of June? Well, it's not a bad time to not be in Arizona.
That part, yes. But I was in Southern California to Northern to Southern to Vegas to Colorado. I came back and I was sick. I had a couple of days before I got on a plane to go coach a team in Spain, which accidentally won that bracket or whatever, which is a bunch of random kids, which was a really, really cool experience with America's team. So if anyone wants to go play overseas, that's who you look for. And then came back, stayed the night in Phoenix, essentially took a nap, got on another plane and went back out to California for PGF.
So it's like your farming season. And so at the end, how's the harvest been from that?
It's been excellent.
Because farming's hard work, so it sounded like you were farming out there.
I was out there, chasing athletes out to the boonies, watching them, and it worked in my favor. And we've had a handful of athletes on campus for visits and recruits and whatnot. Had a prospect camp over the summer, had 2 of them. Only had 7 in the first one, which was okay, and then it doubled the next time, which was even better. And actually got some recruits out of that who have come on visits and have gotten offers and things like that. So
super.
Very, very fruitful. We're currently up to 9 committed kids and hoping to snag a few more, and already working on my 25 class. I already have offers out for that, so we're moving and grooving. You're a hard-working coach. I'm trying. Well, thanks, Coach Nicole Hennessey with Embry-Riddle University, and thank you guys for watching AZ in the Circle, Arizona Softball Podcast. Hey, we love to earn your like and your subscription, so if you felt like you enjoyed it and you like what you see, we got more shows coming up. So thank you very much for tuning in.